Hello and welcome. Another edition of Corvive College Coaches Corner. And each and every week, we take some time, talk to some college coaches, help parents, help student athletes, maybe learn a little bit about different schools, different levels, different divisions of college athletics. And today we're going to talk pitching, one of my favorite topics. We're going to talk to the pitching coach at the University of the Cumberlands, or University of the Cumberlands, Jordan Duel. Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here, and been following the show and learned a ton myself. And it's really good to have somebody in youth players and parents corner to cut through all the noise and be able to help deliver them good information. So hopefully I can contribute to that.
Well, one of the most intriguing parts of you as a coach now at the collegiate level is you've been around the game, I guess, needless to say, at all of the levels with regard to youth travel athletics out there on the West Coast in San Diego, and then obviously through college baseball, Division I, now at NAIA Division I with Brad Shelton. Let's talk a little bit about your pathway that led you to University of Cumberlands.
Yeah, so first started out just coaching travel baseball, like many people that probably watch this show. Started with coaching travel ball while I was in college at UC San Diego. And then moving on from that, coached varsity baseball in San Diego for a couple of years at my alma mater. Then decided I wanted to go to grad school and ended up choosing Texas A&M for grad school.
Wow.
Was able to get involved with the team there. And so I was an analytics and operations intern in 2024 during the College World Series run, and had a really good opportunity to learn from the coaching staff there, get to be around a fantastic group of players. And at that point, I had really known that I was pursuing, a career in college baseball. And so at that point, coached a little bit of summer ball in the prospect league, and then took the job at Cumberlands before last season. And so we had a really good year there. Fortunate to be on a great staff and working with a ton of really good players. We were able to go to the World Series last year. And so I don't know how many people can say they've been able to go to the NCAA Division I World Series and then the NAIA World Series. But I'm definitely well-traveled in the last 2 to 3 years. So it's been great.
One of the things I get asked quite a bit is there's not a lot of familiarity with the NAIA and the big schools or the Division I versus Division II. What has been your observation now that you've been involved, at the University of the Cumberlands with regard to the quality of the program, the quality of the athletes, or just NAIA baseball as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really impressed with NAIA baseball. I didn't know a ton of it coming from the West Coast. I think it's a little bit more common on the East Coast and in the Northeast. And so, really, as I was applying to this job was when I first started to hear about it and hear about the level. And so, just playing the level of competition we've played with the older players that we're seeing at the NAIA level, especially moving into the postseason in the World Series, like most of those teams are very much stacked up with older players, junior college players. And so you're seeing really good frames, really solid kids with some seasoning and with a lot of college at bats and experience. And so when you put that together with really great coaching staffs and really great culture, you have special things. And so, I've been able to play against and see some of the top, schools at our level. And I mean, many people that have watched NAIA baseball would say that they would give a lot of programs at the Division II, Division I level a good run for their money. So, and guys moving on to the next level from the NAIA as well to professional baseball and things like that. So that pathway is definitely open and growing.
Let's talk. You just hit on a few points, and I'm going to kind of connect them. When we start to look at the level of coaching at the NAIA, we're starting to see a lot of former Division I NCAA coaches, the quality. Brad Shelton, obviously one of the elite mentors and coaches within NAIA. But let's talk about, the international player, the player that needs that seasoning prior to going into professional baseball. Last year, you had a left-handed pitcher, and I believe you also had a catcher, both taken in the draft. But let's talk about the pitcher. Talk a little bit about, you come into this program that is nationally renowned, and you have this flamethrower of a guy. Talk a little bit about what you had to do to kind of reconstruct and rebuild him and polish him to the point where he became an 8th round draft pick last year in the MLB draft.
Yeah, that was super exciting. His name's Kalen Hampson. He's from Australia. We actually have a couple of guys from Australia on our pitching staff that have come through. But those Australian guys are great. I mean, they want to soak it all up, learn as much as they possibly can. They love the analytics. And so with Kalen, he's a converted center fielder. He had only started pitching full time, I think 3 years ago, and so it was really his second full season pitching, and so just a great competitor, had a ton of arm talent. 92 to 94, topping out at 95. Really good stuff, but just really had to help him with just the pitchability, the targeting of his pitches, and really just getting him to be in the zone as much as possible and trust that if he's in good counts, he's going to have a ton of success. And so we did some things with mound positioning, playing with the angles that he was creating because he's a low slot lefty, to try to make it as deceptive as possible on the first base side, and then use his real low release height and velo. Added a cutter, just got him in the zone a ton, and he went from a 5.7 ERA to around a 2.7 conference pitcher of the year, starting game one of the NAIA World Series for us against another actual draft pick in the later rounds from Hope International. So that just kind of goes to show the level. But yeah, he did a great job and, really soaked up everything that we were doing, bought into our own the zone mantra of how we kind of go about attacking as pitchers on our staff. And so it really worked out well for him, and he was able to, be an 8th round draft pick and, surpass, anything where we thought he could have been. And that was definitely a big piece, was just being able to have TrackMan and being able to have a ton of great resources at our school. Because, the NAIA is catching up to everybody else with the technology. And so with my experience using it and, understanding what to look for and what professional baseball is going to be looking for, he wasn't left behind, because we had, a lot of scouts at a bunch of our games in the World Series, seeing him go perform. And same with our catcher, Charlie. I mean, he was probably, you could argue, the best hitter in the history of NAIA baseball, hit over 110 home runs in 4 years. And so he's out playing in the Frontier League right now for Billings. So it's been exciting to watch those two. And we have a couple more signed. One is playing in Australia right now. And so, we're excited for those guys.
It's really says something to go from Texas A&M and Jim Schlossnagle, and then going over Division I NAIA and Brad Shelton. And you mentioned a phrase that I don't think a lot of parents of young pitchers really understand. So I'd like to kind of break down, when you're evaluating a pitcher and you talk about targeting, parents hear that word and they think, well, you're going to try to throw a strike. But they don't understand terminology: targeting, tunneling, sequencing. There's so much more to the craft of pitching, and technology helps pitchers kind of see that. Can you talk a little bit about that when you're doing that in the fall and making those adjustments, as you alluded to? What does that look like for, maybe a younger pitcher coming into college, and then you having to get them to understand what they do well and what they can continue to work on to get better in those areas of weakness?
Exactly. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for us is just constantly competing in bullpens. And so we're really trying to make it as lifelike and as intense as possible. And so for us, like, we have strike zones strung up kind of on lanes 1 and 3 on both sides. I pretty much won't allow our guys to throw a bullpen without a stand-in hitter, either the red guy or the blue guy or whatever you have to stand in there. And so it's pretty much the strike zone and that hitter every time. And then we've got counts going pretty much every pitch we throw, even if they're just warming up, like we're working on 0-0 counts and gravitating towards the heart of the zone and getting ahead. So that's really the biggest thing for us, is just make it as lifelike as possible. A lot of pitch pairings and sequencing. So, working the fastball, changeup, fastball, slider. And so, when we get into calling the game and going about attacking hitters, we don't have to throw 4, 5, 6 fastballs in a row, because we're practicing, fastball to slider to changeup to slider back to fastball. And so helping our guys understand that if they're working on throwing a changeup in a 2-0 count, then it's it's something that they can do in the game and something they shouldn't be afraid of. And so we work really hard to spin the ball every day. We work really hard to get on the slope as often as possible, even if it's for just 5 to 10 pitches for feel. I try to get those guys on the hill every single day, and rehearsing our attack plans, rehearsing our sequences of fastball, then slider, then changeup, and just really helping guys understand like what's unique about what they do, and then trying to weaponize it as best we can. So whether they've got a low release or they're able to ride the fastball well and things like that. So it's really just about being able to spin it, winning count leverage, attacking the heart of the zone, and getting ahead. That's big for us.
A few weeks ago, we were talking with Matt Hobbs, Arkansas pitching coach, and he was talking about competitive catch. Now, you are kind of closer to the ground with regard to the younger pitchers, both in the West Coast and pitchers you may have worked at the high school level. You talk about the value of commanding a glove side fastball, meaning that, as a right-hand pitcher, you're trying to hit that low and away to a right-hand hitter. You just talk about the importance of pitch location as opposed to just pitch velocity.
Definitely. Yeah, for us, I mean, obviously that extension fastball to the glove side is the basis for everything. Once you can get there with, it's going to have your best velocity and probably some of your best shape. And so once you can do that with some consistency, it's going to allow you to, finish your breaking balls, get that changeup out, turn it over, and those kind of things. So, it's super important for us. I think just as much as command, it's just an ability to throw, 2 to 3 pitches with confidence, to each side of hitter, to lefties and righties, right? Because if you're not throwing one of your 3 pitches for strikes, or you maybe only throw 2 of 3 to one-handed hitter, and you're not landing the other one, you become a one-pitch pitcher really fast. And so, even if it's not the best pitch in the world, if you're able to mix it in there, and not allow there to be predictability with it, that's a big thing for us for sure.
When you're out evaluating younger pitchers, maybe high school, maybe they're coming to your camp, or maybe you're out attending some games, what are some of the things over and above velocity? Anybody can see a young man, with velocity. I don't need a radar gun. A hitter will tell me what kind of speed he's picking up. But talk about when you're evaluating, what are some of the key components to a young pitcher that you think that guy might be a fit for our program?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we look at is, as well as many, programs that are competing for championships, is just physicality is never going to go out of style. And so that's the first thing to me that kind of jumps off the page. And so we have like an interesting niche of where we're recruiting with junior college guys, because it's obviously hard to get those high level Division I guys. And so we'll get a number of bounce backs from Division I's and things of that nature. But for the junior college guys, it's guys that have thrown a bunch of workload. And the same with the high school guys too. Like, you want to see guys that have thrown a lot of innings, that control the running game, that are able to throw a ton of strikes, be competitive, and then are built, just built, firm, solid athletes that can go out and pitch you through a season, and then hopefully to continue to develop further.
What's the one aspect of NAIA baseball that maybe you didn't think when you leave Texas A&M? That's big boy baseball. You and Nolan Kane and the Arm Farm and Slosh, and you roll into Brad Shelton and University of Cumberlands. What's the one thing that shocked you about NAIA baseball that you would share with families that should be considering it?
Yeah, I think with the NAIA, like, the biggest thing is that there's just not as many of the distractions, right? You don't have to worry about a lot of this NIL stuff. You don't have to worry about, crazy recruiting battles and things like that. Like, you can just go develop, grind, play multiple years in a program, and you're not worrying about guys transferring in and out and things like that. So you can really have the continuity with the coaching staff and with your teammates. And so you can really build a good culture there. And, we have great facilities across the NAI at many of these schools, Cumberland U and some of these other, Johnson University. And so a lot of these programs have just as good of facilities as Division I's and Division II's. And so even the school is a little bit more affordable in a lot of cases. And so there's more scholarship opportunities. these programs have, really good weight rooms, indoor facilities, technology. And so, it really offers a good opportunity where it's not as much of a pressure cooker as Division 1, where everything's got to be instantaneous. Like, I really feel like there's a lot more of a runway for development. And especially for those high school players that maybe, are thinking to go to junior college out of high school, I think it offers an alternative there where they can sort of catch up and still have opportunities to play early on in their career, because of NAIA rules and being able to play up to 10 games and still being able to redshirt and things of that nature. So it's a little bit more forgiving in that sense. And then with our school, we're on the bimester system. And so our classes change every 8 weeks. And so it allows a little bit more academic flexibility, and academic help if students are falling behind a little bit. You're able to kind of catch yourself up. So there's a lot of advantages and benefits with how the NAIA is set up, and we've been able to use that to help our team, be as good as we can.
One of the things I always try to tell parents when I'm talking to them about, the NAIA programs, I really think NAIA programs, one, they're absolutely going to be the most affordable option with regard to the overall college experience. Two, there's so much balance. There's community, there's academics, there's faith, there's baseball. I mean, all of that, in the sense of community and culture, not just within an athletic program, but within a campus community, I think is really what I feel. My son played at LSU Alexandria. They used to compete against what now is the national champion in NAIA, LSU Shreveport. But I really believe that the NAIA is often not viewed enough because we're not talking about it enough. And it's my hope to kind of allow parents and athletes an inside look at that. And I would like for you, you were in Omaha in 2024. You saw the level of competition. Now you go to the NAIA Division I World Series and you see this juggernaut of LSU Shreveport, 59-0. I don't care if they're playing softball or one hand behind their back, 59-0. I mean, tell us a little bit about the World Series experience between the two. Obviously, I'm not saying that Shreveport would take down A&M, 59 games, but the quality and the caliber of play, not too much separation other than, I think, depth off the bump.
Definitely the depth off the bump. I mean, when you're getting to the World Series, you're usually going to be facing a guy that's 90 plus, can spin it. And so, like I had said earlier, I mean, we show up at 8 a.m. playing the defending national champions and Hope International, the first game of the tournament. We've got our draft pick on the mound and they've got their draft pick on the mound. And so, going at it, throwing high octane stuff. You've got probably one of the best hitters in the history of NAIA baseball in your 2-hole for us. And so it's really exciting. It's a great level. The World Series is a great experience. I think what's really cool about it is that the site in Lewiston really has a lot of character. And so we get to spend a lot of time in the community and get to visit multiple schools. We're able to practice at these very, very scenic fields around the Lewiston area. And so overall, it's a great experience. And so, our biggest mission is to get these new guys that are on our team back there. And so I would say that everybody that goes out there, it's an unforgettable experience, and with your host families, and they really treat us well. So it's really a first class event, and we love being there.
One of the interesting things, and I don't think we talk about this enough, recruiting at an NAIA school, you could conceivably have a high school athlete participate in your practice, can work out at the field. There are no what I call heavy recruiting guidelines that you're really having to tiptoe around or deal with, because NAIA is really the type of experience where the athletes get to see the coaches get to work the athletes out. Talk a little bit about that dynamic and how it does help you when evaluating potential student athletes.
Yeah, I think it's really good because, there's that sticker shock when you get, to a Division I coming out of high school and you're the best player in your area and you've been the best player in your area now for a long time. And so, you get to a place like Texas A&M or something like that, and everybody's, 6'4", 6'5", 200 pounds. And, with the NAI, you're able to get around those guys and see what kind of fit you would be before you even step on campus, like you said. And so I think it serves as a really great motivator to just understand, like, hey, I really need to catch up to some of these guys if I'm going to have a shot. And then also understanding, like, it's not just NAIA baseball. Like, if you're looking at these top, 15 to 20 programs in the NAIA, like, they're putting together real teams with real players and depth. And so, and there's opportunities to move on and play professionally and play, independent baseball, play internationally. I always tell guys, like, you just want to continue to play, like, wherever it may be. If you've got the talent, you continue to get better, you're going to have the opportunities. And so, especially with, the democratization of data now, if you go somewhere that has the technology and the facilities and the coaching know-how and the connections, there's really nothing holding you back from going where you want to go. So, and college baseball is just going to continue to grow in the development piece, because we don't really know what's going to happen with the CBA and what's coming up. And so the draft could be shorter, and we don't know how much harder it's even going to get to play professionally. So that's
now you're speaking my language,
stuff.
because I try to get parents to understand. Everybody thinks, oh, the transfer portal, that all changed, and the name, image, and likeness, and all the money, that all changed. Well, if you thought that was big, you haven't seen anything yet. And so I really do believe there's going to be a meeting of the minds with Major League Baseball, college baseball, both NCAA as well as NAIA. And on that note, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm looking for your opinion. If you had to guess, based on just your one or little minute of time at the University of the Cumberlands, do you feel that the NAIA will kind of get out in front of the 5-year eligibility window? Because all these parents are asking, is their 5th year going to come? Is it going to happen? I know Division II NCAA is voting on it in January. I believe NAIA in April. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the NAIA is going to do. I think they're kind of uniquely positioned to kind of go against the current if they want of the NCAA. I think the NCAA, so much is left up in the air right now, and I think with the NAIA, like, at least we have a pretty good idea of what the rules are, and they seem to work very well for student athletes. And so I think with being able to play up into 10 games, like, I'm not sure they need to add the extra year of eligibility. I think at a certain point, we got kids that are way too old to be in college baseball, and I had a kid that was only a few months younger than I was on the team last year. So I think at a certain point, I think we got to, put an end to it and either get these guys to professional baseball or into the workforce.
I think this becomes a moment where I think, it gets a little silly when you start looking for 5th, 6th, 7th year of eligibility. You're 25, 26 years old. You might have a child. I just think college baseball, again, the word college, it's all about that growth from being a older teenager to a young adult. It's that pre-world of pre-responsibility. You're educating yourself in a myriad of different ways. You're getting together with teammates probably for the last time, unless you go professional. And I think at some point there has to be some, I guess, common sense. But it just seems to get weirder and weirder every time we look up. But Jordan, I want to say thank you. You offer a very unique perspective. And let me ask you this final question. Do you have college camps that you are, evaluating or recruiting out of? What's the best way for a high school or even a JUCO athlete to get in front of the University of Cumberland's coaching staff?
Yeah, so for us, we'll be a few months back. I was at Grand Park, and so we'll go to a lot of the Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana JUCO circuit events put on by PBR and Perfect Game and those kind of things. So that's a big pull, and so we'll be at those. And as far as camps, we don't do a ton on campus. Williamsburg is, after all, a town of only about 4,000. So, but we're conveniently located between Knoxville and Lexington. So, although we are a little bit of a drive, we're able to do a lot of recruiting just through our coaching connections and people that we know. And honestly, we do very well with our guys that just have their buddies back at their JUCO that they came from. They just keep them coming. And so, one thing we touched on earlier is just our team being very multicultural. We have Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Australians, Canadians. We have Californians. We have kids from Kentucky. So we're really able to pull from a lot of different places. And so, um, great JUCO baseball players that are physical and want to win. Like we're a great destination for them. And, they're guys that we're able to kind of uncover wherever they may be. So, but for high school guys, yeah, I would say the biggest thing is, keep us on your radar. Be looking, if you come through the JUCO route or maybe Division I doesn't work out quite the way you wanted. I mean, we've had kids from Rice and Texas State and Sam Houston. Even in the last few years before I got there, some bounce backs from Kentucky and other places. So, it's for some guys, it's an opportunity for a fresh start. For some guys, it's an opportunity to continue to build off JUCO. For some guys, it's an opportunity if they've struggled academically to kind of pick themselves back up. For some guys, it's a financial consideration. And so, there's not many places that can beat us on price with how our school has been able to make education so affordable and flexible too, with all of our advanced and graduate degree programs. And so, it's a really unique spot, really unique opportunity. And so, for the high school guys, I would just tell them, keep working hard, get better, get more physical. And, NAI is across the board. Some will be different than us as far as the high school recruiting. I know most are pretty heavily on the high school recruiting. But there's a whole spectrum of the NAI, and there's a lot of really good options.
I want to let parents know Brad Shelton, one of the elite, I call him one of the Mount Rushmore type coaches, regardless of level and division. I don't go down that path. But if you start to look at NAIA, particularly University of Cumberlands, it might cost you $4,000 a year. So you might graduate with a degree after 4 years, 5 years. Maybe it's cost you $16,000, $20,000 for 4 years, not per year. That's one. Two, you look at the Johnsons, the Reinhardts, the Ottawas, the LSU Alexandria, LSU Shreveport, Hope. You go watch some of these games, and I think your takeaway will be, wow, are they better than I thought they were? This is unbelievable baseball. I've lived it as a dad. I've watched it as a coach. And I can assure you, if you're a parent or a student athlete, NAIA baseball, it's big now. It's about to get very big in the near future. And Jordan, I want to say thank you. Happy New Year. I really appreciate it. I know you're back home for a couple of days. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great to be with you.
Athletes, electrolytes matter, but you got to choose the right electrolytes. If you look at the sugars, 34 grams, the dyes, all the things that's not good for you in this product, this is a hype product. If you look here at the electrolytes made by Corvive, it's got the right amount of magnesium, sodium, potassium, zinc, kosher salt. It's got vitamin C to help with the immune system. I'm telling you, if you want to stay on the field, you want to perform at your best, you want to recover well, this is the product that you need to choose to fuel your body as an athlete.